I'm going batty trying to get all these videos done. Welcome to Kraken's Garage. I'm your host, Eric. Thank you for joining me today for another episode. Today I'm going to take you on a journey through the history of Vespa and how Vespa saved Italy post-World War II. We're going to dive into the secrets that most people don't know about and try and wrap our minds around the heritage of this particular bike and why it holds true to its roots to this day. Today is my pop's birthday. It's Monday, Columbus Day. I got a picture of him posted on the wall there. I'll show right up on the top of the screen if you want to see kind of a funny shot. I believe he was 19 years old. And he was flat tracking Harleys back then, and that's a super old school picture I'll share with you as a piece of my life. People that know me know I'm kind of a history buff, and today I want to do a video that I think is kind of crucial for people to understand the roots of Vespa and why this particular 155cc scooter is the crown gem of all the bikes I've ever owned in my lifetime, and I've owned a lot, over 50 of them. So with that said, we're going to talk about how Vespa saved Italy post-World War II, and we're going to dive into all the deep, dark secrets of why and how it went down. Today you're going to learn something. History of a scooter that holds true to its roots to this day. Let's get to it. Vespas could be found in every corner of the world. What might surprise you is Vespa's origin comes right out of the destruction and loss of World War II. We will discuss the incredible ability of Enrico Piaggio to create Vespa and break through the economic barriers Italy was facing post-World War II. By the end of World War II, Italy had been left in ruins. It had surrendered to the Allies in 1943 and immediately was occupied by Germany. Over the next 2 years, the peninsula became a fierce battlefield, hundreds of thousands of lives lost. The country was bombed out and in massive debt. Post-World War II, Italy's government was too weak to start new industry. The rest of the world had switched back to normal consumer production. The automobile was one of the most popular post-World War II goods. During the war, auto factories had been converted to wartime production. Bombs, tanks, armaments, things of that nature. While other countries could afford to switch back to civilian production, Italy's government was way too much in debt to support such a transition. The industrialists of Italy had their hands tied. They had to make do with what resources they had. Enter in Enrico Piaggio. Prior to the war, the family produced locomotives and train cars. But once war broke out, their factory had been converted for military production. Piaggio made some of Italy's best World War II aircraft, like the P-108, which of course made it a prime target for Allied bombers. By 1945, their factory had been razed. Enrico knew it was time for a change. With his country's roads in ruins, he knew the country would struggle to find a usable means of transportation, let alone traverse the roads that were in ruins. Italy's infrastructure was in ruins as well, and Enrico had to think of a new means of transportation. It had to be reliable, affordable, and be able to handle what was left of Italy's roads. Enrico had seen the American scooter called the Cushman during the war. Cushman scooters were used to get around quickly, dropped by parachutes. He was not a fan of the design with no driver protection or visual appeal. Italy had been banned from making any type of war machines for 10 years after the war, so there was plenty of engineers looking for work. Enrico hired Renzo Spolti and Vittorio Cassini to design a scooter with bodywork to protect the rider, and he wanted the engine enclosed to shield the rider from oil and debris. Piaggio engineers Renzo and Vittorio designed a motorcycle with bodywork fully enclosed the drivetrain and forming a tall splash guard at the front. In addition to the bodywork, the design included handlebar mounted controls, forced air cooling, wheels of a smaller diameter, and a tall central section that had to be straddled, officially known as the MP5. Moto Piaggio No. 5. The prototype was nicknamed Paperino, either Duckling or Donald Duck in Italian. Piaggio was displeased with the MP5, especially the tall central section. He contracted aeronautical engineer Corradino Desanio to redesign the scooter. Desanio, who had earlier been consulted by Ferdinando Innocenti about the scooter design and manufacture, made it immediately known that he hated motorcycles, believing them to be bulky, dirty, and unreliable. Corradino was known for his work on helicopters during World War II. Desanio's MP6 prototype had an engine mounted beside the rear wheel. The wheel was driven directly from the transmission, eliminating the drivetrain and oil and dirt associated with it. The prototype had a unit spar frame and was stress-bearing steel outer panels. These changes allowed the MP6 to have a step-through design without a center section like that of the MP5 Paperino. The MP6 design was also included in a single-sided front suspension, interchangeable front and rear wheels mounted on stub axles, and a spare wheel. Other features of the MP6 were similar to those of the Paperino, including the handlebar-mounted controls and an enclosed bodywork with the tall front splash guard. Upon seeing the MP6 for the first time, Enrico Piaggio exclaimed, "Sembra una Vespa. It resembles a wasp." Piaggio effectively named his new scooter on the spot, and a legend was born. In April 1946, this amazing new functional and innovative mode of transport was presented to the general public for the first time in a golf club in Rome. The shield was embossed with a new logo which replaced the previous Piaggio aircraft emblem. Vespa was an immediate success and gained extensive media interest as well as public curiosity, surprise, and even skepticism. The first sales of Vespa were managed through a small dealer network, and the price of the standard model was 55,000 lira, while the deluxe version sold for 66,000 lira. Enrico sold 2,500 in the first full year. He invested the profits in his factory. The next year, he sold 10,000 Vespas. By the turn of the decade, he had sold 60,000 Vespas. Pretty soon, a new verb was being used, Vespare, which means to go anywhere on a Vespa. All of Italy had fallen in love with Vespa. It became an everyday mode of transportation. Although its original purpose was to overcome Italy's destroyed infrastructure at the time, Vespa's unique design had captured the public's eye globally. Enrico began exporting Vespas to India in 1948, becoming the country's first scooter dealer. Vespa enjoyed a monopoly for decades in India. Vespa became an American sensation with the release of the movie Roman Holiday in 1953, where Audrey Hepburn rides the iconic Vespa around Rome. It's estimated that over 100,000 units were sold as a result of just that movie. Then you have a culture in London that started over Vespas. As a cheap, dependable mode of transportation, it became the mode for most teens in Europe. Enrico's story is amazing in the sense he started out trying to get Italy moving again and ended up with a cultural icon for the last 74 years. For that very reason alone, I love Vespa. The history is absolutely amazing. So there's the magical story of Enrico Piaggio and how he created Vespa and where it got to where it is today. Not so much in North America, but in the rest of the world, it is huge. And it's always kind of bothered me that Americans never really embraced Vespa as much as the rest of the world has. It is what it is. With that said, I hope you enjoyed the story and you learned something from it. Now, why is this my crown gem? This is a 2014 Vespa 946. It's a throwback and tribute to the very first Vespa ever made in 1946, thus the model 946. It is going to be reserved for a video on another day where I dive into the details of this particular scooter and why I love it. But just throw that little teaser out there for a future video. And there's our ghost dog. Must be time for us to do the outro. If you like this video, give it a tentacles up. If you don't like it, give it a tentacles down. If you want to see more in the future, hit that button right down there in the corner called the subscription button. And I'll see you in the next one. Time for the outro with my twin brother, Elwood. And remember, folks, go ride when you get to the California.